But you knew. Big energy. When I come through, big energy. Dark shades on, no they see enemy. I bet that you heard of me. I know they form gangster only.
It's the Whispers Empowered Show on Boss Radio 98.9 FM, where which comes to you every Saturday from 10 a.m. up until 11 a.m. And as usual, Mary Jacob is in the studio with me this morning. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Didi. Good morning. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Are you?
Fine.
And of course, we listened to our drama that talked about some of the challenges that people in rural communities face when it comes to accessing good education. That radio drama will form the basis of our conversation this morning. This is going to be a continuation of what we started last week, Saturday. So if you listened to the drama last week, this is an opportunity for you to be part of the program on the Whispered Empowered program on Boss Radio 98.9 FM Owerri. And as usual, we have a question for the day. If you're lucky to get the question correctly, you stand a chance to win a gift from Whispers to Humanity. So keep it locked on Boss Radio 98.9 FM Owerri. Let's quickly go on a short musical break. The Whispers Empowered show on Boss Radio 98.9 FM Owerri. I want to quickly give a recap of the radio drama last week in case you missed last week edition of the program. Basically, the drama talked about some of the challenges people in communities face when it comes to accessing quality education. In the drama, we saw that villagers complained about the bad road that leads to the school their children attend, and some of the girl childs there end up being raped by some pedophiles who hide in bushes to attack children while on their way to school. And the community reported to appropriate authorities who came and constructed a road and a school for the villagers in their community and made it easy for them to access education. So today on the edition of the program, Mary Jacob will be talking about some of the things you should do. She's taking it from the angle of human rights based approach. I said earlier that the drama would also form the basis of our conversation this morning. Last week, we talked about how people in communities should always speak up if they're having challenges in accessing good health, roads, and all that. So Mary is taking it from the human rights approach. Mary Jacob.
Okay, thank you very much, Didi. So yeah, what we heard last week from the radio was from the drama was actually a very human rights based approach theme, and you know when you are speaking from an NGO perspective, so many people feel like, oh, it's NGO, then you have to solve our problems, and the human rights approach is different from the traditional approach that is known for NGOs, and it is not an it's not an approach that it's actually just an NGO thing. It's actually like a general approach of engagement and causing change that you want to see. So there are different kinds of approach when you're working in a development space. We have the charity based approach. So the charity based approach is the approach that you have people either giving money, offering money, offering offering money, offering help, offering properties, offering food stuffs and stuffs. All of these are charity based. They're trying to cause a change, yes, but at the same time, this change is being caused from a charity perspective. So they come and feel like, oh, we're coming to a community. Okay, let's use the community from our last radio show. Let's say they're coming to Umunganga that said they need a school. And when they're coming to Umunganga that says they need a school, you start coming with them and you're buying them food. Okay, from what we heard from that radio program, it didn't sound like the community was hungry.
True.
You get, they might not have all the luxurious life, but yeah, they were feeding well. So if you bring the charity based approach, you're coming to give people free food, give free materials, which is the approach that most of our politicians use during elections. Then we have the humanitarian based approach, which offers humanitarian services and help and support. to cause a universal change. Then we come to the human rights based approach, which is my very favorite approach, which is the approach that We Spread Humanity uses.
Okay.
So the human rights based approach is an approach that looks at life from the human rights perspective. So if we are coming to Umunganga, instead of coming to Umunganga with foodstuffs to share them, so that they don't die of hunger, even when we don't know what their problem is, the human rights approach will go to Umunganga, get to know Umunganga, find out what their issues are, and introduce them to likable approaches and human rights perspectives and existing laws that are guiding them, and laws that are saying that, oh, you know what, you could actually get this by yourself, right? So the human rights based approach gives the power to the people. So if you've heard this term that says the power in the people is bigger than the people in power, it's actually a human rights term, okay, that says that the people, the population, have the power to put people in power, and they have the power to take the power out of those people and
put in power.
exactly that they put in power. So that is what we are trying to popularize. If our listeners listened to the drama last week, they would also they must have heard that during the drama, it was obvious that the community was not asking for money to be given to them. They did not ask you to give them rice. They did not ask you to give them oil and tomato. They were asking you to give them a school. And they were demanding. They were not begging for it. They were demanding because they understand it's their right. And I'm also very excited about like the coming week drama, which is like a continuation or something, that is going to be shining light on what happens afterwards. So we have different steps of the human rights based approach. We have the first step, which is the awareness step, which is you identifying your powers and identify your powers, and also the people that have powers around you, because it's not just about you. So when you identify in this stage of awareness where you're building your awareness on what kind of powers do I have, what are other people in power, then you start doing the stakeholder mapping. So the stakeholder analysis or the stakeholder mapping is analyzing and mapping out different stakeholders. So the stakeholders are people that have a stake, people that have a say in that problem you're trying to solve. So if you're doing a stakeholder mapping, like the Umunganga did a stakeholder mapping, and they said, oh, the young people, we have the power, so we are stakeholders in this. Okay, we are the ones that go to this school. Our children are going to go to this school, so we have the power. And they mapped another stakeholder, which was their Igwe. And this Igwe, being a stakeholder, had another power, not the same power as the young people did. In speaking to the Igwe, they mapped out the third stakeholder, which was the Commissioner of Education. So you see that in the process of causing change, that period of awareness where you have mapped out, you have acknowledged your powers. Then you start mapping out the people who have powers, who have stake in it. So in doing your stakeholder analysis, there are a lot of things to put in place, because some of your stakeholders are interested in the issue that you're fighting for, okay? And some of your stakeholders are not interested. So like if you're going to cause a change that is involving the government, chances are that the government might not be so interested in that local change that you want to cause. But at the same time, they have the power to make it happen. So in identifying your stakeholders, you push to your left side your stakeholders who are also interested, and push to your right side your stakeholders who are uninterested. So at the stage of mapping out, okay, these are the stakeholders I have, these are the people involved, these people are interested, these people are not interested, you start looking for avenues to move those ones that are not interested, to move from the right part to the left part, which is a part of interest. And to do that, you have to convince these people that they are not just doing it because they need to do it. They are doing it because there is something to gain from it. You have to convince them to own the process as much as you own the process.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you this question. For example, in a community where, say, a government official comes to make inquiry about what is lacking in that community, and they meet the leader of that community, and the leader tells them, we are good with the ones we have. just send the money into my account. I'll see what I'll do for the community. How do we deal? Believe me, it happens
Yeah, of
in
course.
some communities. How do we deal with people like this, or how do we deal with issues like this?
So the leader of the community, who might have or must have told these people to send the money into his account, is a leader because he was put in power.
Yeah.
So that's also where it comes to the human rights, understanding that you this person is our leader. We put you in power. Okay. So if sometimes the gap is this where you don't even know that this money is coming, because sometimes they siphon this money and you never get to hear
Exactly.
about it.
Exactly.
So, but when you have issues in your community and you are not keeping quiet, if you're not keeping quiet about it, you will hear from people who have said things like, "We have come to your community to solve this problem. This person, Okeke Okafo, was the person we met, and this is what happened." But if you're going to keep quiet, you won't even know if there's something coming to the community. There was a campaign I was involved in about 6 years ago. We were doing this campaign, all the agitation. It was all over everywhere.
Social media.
Yeah, it was on social media, and then we were using the radio, we were using print media on the streets. It was in the university. But guess what? When it was time to cause this change, we had the student union government. They came to siphon the whole money. Okay, they were saying, all right, they are trying to fix it. So what they were doing was they were using us to get money from the government. So what they just kept pouring fuel into the fire. We need to get this happen. So we agitate, and then money comes and they take the money, and then we don't hear anything again. We want to agitate. They're telling us, calm down, relax. But if we kept quiet, there was no way we would have found out that these people were getting money that was meant for the issues we are fighting for. But when we kept raising our voices, we're like, we have given this money already. Why are you still shouting? So in situations, if you have issues in communities, you have community leaders, some of them that are not trustworthy. They will not tell you when they get this money. They are going to siphon this money. So how much are you still airing these views? How much are you speaking up about these issues? Because it's only when you speak up, that's the only time that the people in question are going to know that the money they send did not get to where it's supposed to get. And then you will know who your problem is and know who to catch and who to hold responsible.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to add to what you've said. When it comes to some of these community projects that say politicians or government eventually construct for people in the village,
Yeah.
I think that villagers also have a role to play in
Exactly.
maintaining some of these structures. If the government erects like a school building for you, or say like a toilet or whatever that is your need at that moment,
Yeah.
I feel they have a role to play in maintaining that structure.
Yes. Owning it.
And maintaining it. It's not everything that we always wait for the government to do. There are some things you can do on your own too, to add. If you notice that maybe the roof of the building is like leaking, at least within yourself, say you can contribute money and fix it at that point in
Yeah.
time. But if it's beyond what you can do as a community, you can still reach out to the government to
Yes.
come to your aid. Now, you mentioned something about people wielding the power and they don't know they have the power. I don't know how you said it, but
Yeah.
how do you believe me that some Nigerians don't really know the power they hold as the masses?
Yeah.
How do we kind of change the mindset to make them understand that these people in power, you put them there, and you can also bring them out, take them out of power if you want to? How would you advise people to bring this power they have in them to play?
Okay, so there are a couple of avenues, and I'm very excited at this age and time that we have the media to our advantage. So how much are we using it?
For people who are in the interior who
Yeah.
don't have
People,
access to
okay, people who are in the interior, believe me, they listen to the radio, which is also a media.
True.
But at the same time, when you have a government appointee that is supposed to be doing something, do you even know what the person is supposed to be doing? You get. So sometimes we have an appointee and we are like, oh, Onwetela, government appointment.
Some of the appointees do not even know
what they are
they're
supposed to do. Exactly.
That's why we keep seeing empowerment with motorcycles.
Yeah.
Wash
And
your-
having youth summits with DJ. Yeah. So yeah, it's just like when we have these things, I think more young people, even in the interior parts, it's like I did not grow up in the big cities. So more young people should start asking questions and start engaging in conversations. You get. When you have a government appointee, that's why I said I'm very excited about the next episode of the radio drama, because they were bringing out the part of the community where this person, the contractor from last week, failed to do the contract.
Oh.
So like they were taking actions, creative actions. Okay. There is no government, there is barely or hardly a time you have a government appointment to represent your constituency if the person is not part of your constituency. So if this person is appointed, are you going to meet this guy and call him, oh, Chiamo, buy us drink? Or are you having constructive conversations on what can get better in your community? So if you're bringing up points, even if you don't know what the person's work is, and somebody has gotten a government appointment, and the person is from your clan or your community, like some things like, oh, bros, how far? This your appointment that you have started, though. How far? This road, this school, this market, this thing. Do you get? Let this person explain to you that no, my own is not concerning this one. Look at the kind of one. Okay, what can your own do for us? You get? Because I think as young people, we have spent a lot of time putting it in energy to entertaining our personal selves and personal needs, that we have forgotten that we take the ownership of our communities. Like what you said about a community that has a government construction. So many communities in Imo State now do not have electricities. Some of them is because the members of the community, young people even, have stolen at some point things that will give them the electricity.
True.
How can you go and vandalize a transformer that will give electricity to your streets? You get? Like, we own the process. We're asking government to do their part, and we're not doing our part. Government properties are public properties. Government structures are our structures. And if we pay taxes enough, we should understand that we are paying into the government. We are investing into this government. We have resources that are generating money for this government. So anything that is built with that money should be protected and owned like our very own. Yes.
All right. It's still the Whispers Empowered Show on Boss Radio 98.9 FM Owerri. And we are talking about assessing the needs of communities. But Mary Jacob is taking it by introducing the human rights-based approaches. If you want to be part of the conversation, the numbers are 090-9222-9922 or 091-226-77989. You can still send a WhatsApp message via the number 0806-999-2999. Let's quickly go on a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll start taking your calls and messages. Welcome back. It's still the Whispers Empowered Show on Boss Radio 98.9 FM Owerri. And we've been having an amazing conversation this morning. Before we went on that short musical break, we were talking about tactics to human rights approach. And I let out the phone line, so it's time for you to be part of the conversation. I said earlier on that we have a question for the day. And the question is, identify an approach that was used in the drama that can also be used to tackle issues in your community. The numbers are open for you to be part of the conversation. Mary Jacob, we were saying something before we went on that short commercial break.
Yes. We're talking about taking ownership and communities. You just imagine that you will not have electricity because you think the transformer is a government property, and therefore you sell it to make money and you reach your personal pocket and then leave your community in darkness. So I think that I think some weeks ago we had that session we had, I think, during the International Youth Day, where we were talking about intergenerational learning and connection.
Gap.
Yes, the gap is huge. I think that's one of the things that we should be getting from the past. Okay, generations before us, we hear stories about Nka Unkai. We hear people talk about their communities with so much pride and how they want to uplift it and how they want to do things. You come out and you're getting a political appointment, you're getting even a personal appointment, or you're an entrepreneur. You're thinking of how to take things that are beautiful back to your community. But now in this generation, you just see so many young people just, I want to take money back to my account.
Exactly.
Yeah, people want to reach Aza. And then we forget the basics of where we come from, who we are, and a communal goal that we can achieve by pushing some of this light into our communities. So you basically don't need to be the one to do these projects. The human rights based approach does not just give you a roadmap to actualize what you want to get. It also gives you a roadmap, a guiding principle that says that, you know what, it is your human right to get this goal. And it's if you're getting the school as a public, as a community, you are taking ownership of it. And when you own things, we know how we do it. You see some of these private schools, and you see how the preparators amplify the schools, they beautify it. They make sure they have very new things every year, every academic year. You want to bring something new, a new vibe to the school. What are we doing on our public schools? How are we making sure that the roofs are not falling on the heads of these children? Some of these public schools, some of us attended them.
Yeah.
But because we have left the communities, we're doing better, we want to reach and have a convoy to get back for Christmas, we forget that we have a community to preserve. And we have people like we were years ago. We have young people at this age and time that need to attend those schools and need to go through that process. So we're missing the point. We want to get. We don't want to sustain.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, like it still boils down to what we said by villagers maintaining some of this. And I'd like to add that when we're talking about this access to some of the basic things that we need as people in our villages, some people in some of these villages do not even have access to like say a good toilet to defecate most times, and that's where we see open defecation. When you're walking through these parts in the villages, you see stuff that you're not even meant to see.
Yeah.
That in cases like this, contribute money and see and ensure that they provide like a convenience for them before this, because the truth is the more you keep waiting for these politicians, the more things are spoiling by the day.
Funny enough, there are, in some of these projects, you don't even need money.
True.
You don't need money. We were talking, one of the communities Whisper to Humanity works in Cross River. We're talking about a school, somewhere in Boki, local government, yeah. Somewhere in Boki. We're talking about a school. And this community produces a lot of timbers. They have wood.
Okay.
So we're like, okay, even if we cannot provide them with something very standard, they already have the wood. They have the manpower. Okay, we have a member of our team that is working with Whisper, that is coordinating Whisper in Cross River, who is from this community. And he has an age grade who is willing that, okay, if you're coming, we are willing to give you the manpower.
Yeah.
We're going to come, just buy us the nails and hammer because we don't have it. And we can construct a school because we need a school. So you see how much involvement. So sometimes you just need to bring the initiative. Sometimes you just need to invoke some of these conversations. Sometimes it's not even money. When we're talking about a convenience, how much do you think it will cost? We're not talking about a water system. If you're digging, how much?
Yeah.
But we could just come out and buy pure water for everybody and dig. Do you get? Some of these things are just being interested and wanting to make it happen. Small donations, and you have it happening. You don't need it to be all massive and all over the earth. And then when you make it happen, are you also going to sustain it? Because if we all communally, every one of us in the studio come together, the Whisper team, the Boss FM team, and then we say, okay, let's construct this. When we are done constructing it with all the sweat and all the energy and the love and passion we put into constructing it, I tell you, Didi, if I see you dropping any trash on it, I will quarrel with you. Like, why you did this? You get.
Yeah.
So if there is a communal involvement in these things, we have a communal ownership. Even when a government is even constructing something in your community, how many times do you walk to the site and find out what is happening?
Yeah, most times we don't.
You see, we just leave it like it's not our business. So it's horrible.
Mary Jacobs, most of the times, do you think that these approaches work?
Okay, yes. Every time it works.
Every time.
Yes. Do you know why I said so? Sometimes I tell people, when you're doing advocacy, it's advocacy work and activism is not like written in papers. Okay. So when we're talking about some of these approaches, like when I talk about the human rights based approach, I would just share taxes with you. I wouldn't tell you what will work in your contest. But when you understand that, the human rights based approach is an approach that says, I have the power and then I can figure out what can work. You understand that it is left for you to figure out what can work. And it will work, you get. So it always works because you know your contest, you understand your contest very well, and you know how best to find a solution as per what is happening. So our taxes is just going to tell you that, you need to figure out what the issue you want to do talk about is be precise about it. So this is the issue, and then figure out who your stakeholders is. Where are these people that have a stake? They are involved somehow. People that are for involved against and involved for. Okay, so if you have all of them, then you know that these people are involved and they are for us, and you can work with them. These people are involved and they are against us. Then you can know how to convince them and push them into your for you. You get, so it is your own tactics. Human rights based approach for me is a homegrown approach. Okay, it is a non-colonial based approach. It is your approach. So you build it your own, the way it is, with the bylaws that you have. Decide how you want it to work. So if you have a community leader that is not working well, I will not tell you how to march to his house. You know the shortcut to his house. You know how to go to his house. You know if marching to his house and locking his gate will get what you want. You know whether blocking his car on the road will get what you want. You know if calling the Igwe, if he listens to the Igwe. So why I say that it always works is because I know that it always works. As far as you understand the taxes and you're doing your homegrown thing, deciding on your own, finding the solution, it will definitely work.
Okay, for instance, say in a community where a particular infrastructure is lacking, and they've tried their best to reach out to their representatives, the government, say over the years, nothing has been done about it. What should they do? And if they want to reach out to an NGO, how can they go about it?
Okay, there are a couple of NGOs, but the truth is, NGO is like hybrid.
But you know, there's this mentality that people, and once you meet with an NGO, they're going to solve your
problem.
problems and all that.
Yeah. So it's like a hybrid thing. So if you're meeting an NGO, you have to understand that there are different types of NGO. If you meet Mr. United, if you see me, you know that I don't have that kind of money to be that.
You never can tell.
I don't look like I have it. So if you're meeting an NGO for an infrastructure, it is very necessary that you look for a charity-based organization or a humanitarian-based organization, because this is the target they have. You get, their target is to put in money for charity. And then beyond looking at your duty bearers, okay, like Nonso mentioned last week, you have people in your community that can do it. And like what I said before the break, you have things that you can do by yourself for that infrastructure to work. The first female school in my community was built by market women. You get, so like there are a lot of things, there are a lot of roles you can play. So if you need an infrastructure as a community, it is something that you can take communal action to make happen. That's why I said the taxes, the approach, the human rights based approach will always work. So if the government is not listening, if you're getting probably privileged people in your community that are able to afford one or two things, then it's already another tactics, already an approach. Inside the approach, you're already finding solutions. And then if you're going to start saying, all right, even these people, these rich people in our communities, if you're going to give us cement, we're going to do the work ourselves. Don't pay for manpower. Imagine somebody knows right now, Didi. Imagine someone from your community comes and say, Didi, we want to do this. We just need one bag of cement from you, or just one bag of pure water from you. The young people are coming out every market day or every Saturday together to do this. How would you feel? If you don't give them, you will feel bad.
Yeah.
You get. True. So like there are communal things that you can do to start pushing for these things. And then there are very creative approaches you can use to even call out the government when you even do it yourself. You do it and take ownership and tell the government it's not their own. Obviously, it's not their own. You did it for yourself. You get. So some of these things it's not something that we have to wait for someone. You have to look deep. That infrastructure you're looking for in your community, who can do it for you? And if you have been reaching out to particular people and it's not working, maybe it's time to start thinking out of the box. What can you do?
Okay. Talking about this participation in some of these approaches, is it left for like a set of people in the community, or it should be a collective effort?
It is a collective effort. It should be a collective effort.
I think we have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. Hime, Senior Comrade Linus Duru, Umezalo Ogwara, Hime Mbano, Imo State. Your point, this one is okay. What you also to discuss is okay. But my area of concern is how to reach people when you have something to add to improve the welfare of the people in the community. I think that is the area we are. Are you there?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. if I'm at point, we always use the church. If we disseminate information to churches around the community, get them aware, information can reach people. And we can still use church to punish offenders, because church knows the better means of disciplining someone. And if there's anything government brings to the community, everybody is now a Christian. Christianity dominated almost 99% of the religious life of people. So we use the church. That is my point.
All right, thank you very much. Would you like to react to what he said, Mary?
Yeah, of course. Church is a stakeholder. As in a community where a church plays a huge role, then your church is your stakeholder. So you have to also figure out that if this issue that you want to fight for, is it something that your church would agree with? So if it's something that your church would agree with you, then your church is a stakeholder for you. And if it's something that your church will not agree with, then your church is a stakeholder against you. So you would have to work on how to get your church to see reasons with you and be a stakeholder that will speak for you as well and be in the left part with you, playing together.
All right, still talking about the human rights approaches. Is it really backed by the law? Is it legal?
Okay, so it's not like the human rights based approach is not like a law. Okay, so it's just like an approach. It's just like a map on how you can use your human rights and do things. And I would tell people that it's not something technical. Okay, it's not something technical. It's not something that needs to be written in paper for it to be a human rights based approach.
Okay.
If it's anything that you're doing, any action that you're taking by knowing that, okay, this is my right and this is what I can do, it's already a human rights based approach. So you don't need to speak plenty grammar to support it.
You don't need to quote the law.
Yeah, so you just do your thing and just
Mary Jacob, in few minutes, what would be your advice to people in communities based on this human rights approach?
Okay, so my advice would be don't wait for anybody. You don't have to be all learned. You don't have to be it's not like a very technical thing to do. You have an issue. Identify that you have an issue. Accept that you have an issue. Then find solution of your issue. It's just that. That's all this long grammar we're saying is just find a solution to the problems that you have in your community. You don't have to be a youth leader. You don't have to be any leader. Start conversations and
in
do
your
something.
community to ensure that there's a change in your community. It's been an exciting conversation this morning on the Whispers Empowered Show. Thank you for being a part of it, even though you weren't able to call in. Thank you for listening all the same. Don't forget to join us same time, same station next week. My name is Didi, and do have an amazing weekend.
But you know, big energy. When I come through, big energy. Dark shades on, no they see enemy. I bet that you heard of me. I know they form gangster only.